Any airport vehicles on the frequency? Priester 192, tower, you okay? Priester 192, tower.
On September 3rd, 2025 at 12:11 Central Daylight Time, a Gulfstream G150 November 1927 Golf was substantially damaged when it was involved in an accident at Chicago Executive Airport. The pilot and co-pilot were not injured. The pilots reported that on the morning of the accident they completed a 14 CFR Part 135 charter flight from Chicago Executive to Baltimore Washington International Airport, where they dropped off their passengers. For the return flight to Chicago Executive, the pilot monitoring, who was also a company check airman, was in the right seat. The co-pilot was the pilot flying in the left seat, and this was to be his first landing in the G150. Air traffic control cleared the flight for the RNAV GPS runway 30, circled to land runway 34 approach, and reported the runway was 100% wet with a runway condition code of 555.
Exec Tower, Priester 192, the RNAV 30, circle 34.
Priester 192, executive tower number 2, following the Falcon, starts in the circle inside GDS there. Report circling for runway 34 and wind 280 at 9 gust 16.
Okay, we'll report the break off the circle for Priester 192.
And the current runway condition codes for both of you guys, 6 hits outside and Priester 192, 555, 100% wet.
Thank you. Got it.
Due to the gusting crosswind, the pilots added 10 knots to reference landing speed, or the VREF, and the pilot monitoring stated that they used 128 knots as their landing speed. The pilot flying stated that during the final approach, the airspeed was a little fast. He added that he landed a little long in the touchdown zone, then applied the brakes and deployed the thrust reversers. He felt an initial deceleration, then the airplane stopped decelerating, but he kept pressing the brakes and was pulling really hard on the thrust reverser handles.
Any airport vehicles on the frequency?
The pilot monitoring stated that as the airplane crossed the runway threshold, the airspeed was a little fast and the pilot flying flared a little high. He added that during the landing roll, the pilot flying deployed the thrust reversers and applied the brakes. The airplane initially decelerated for a few seconds, but then stopped decelerating. The pilot monitoring confirmed that the brake pedals were depressed to the floor. The airplane continued into the left side of the Engine Materials Arresting System, the EMAS, at the end of the runway, then through the airport perimeter fence when it came to rest next to a road. The pilots confirmed that they did not apply the emergency brake lever, they did not turn the anti-skid off, and after coming to rest, they did not manipulate the air brake switch. A review of the FAA ADS-B data and airport surveillance videos revealed that about 2,100 feet down the runway, the airplane porpoised, then landed about 2,800 feet down the runway. From the touchdown point, there was about 2,200 feet of runway remaining. As the airplane continued down the runway, the video showed the thrust reversers deployed and the air brakes were stowed. The responding FAA inspector confirmed that the nose landing gear collapsed and the airplane sustained substantial damage to the forward fuselage. The ground air brake switch was found in the off position. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder were removed from the airplane and sent to the NTSB Vehicle Recorder Laboratory for download. A preliminary review of the CVR and FDR data revealed that the pilot received the Chicago Executive weather about 30 minutes before landing, and at that time they did not discuss landing speeds, landing zone, or touchdown points. They stated that VREF would be 119 knots, and there was no discussion about adding 10 knots for the gusting wind. About 1,000 feet above ground level, the pilot flying asked for gear down and the before landing checklist to be completed. The pilot monitoring told the pilot flying that they needed to slow down for the gear extension, but there was no before landing checklist completed after that. There was no discussion about the air brakes, and the flight data recorder confirmed that the air brakes were not deployed. A preliminary landing performance calculation was completed based on the accident conditions and airplane's weight. The wet runway condition minimum landing distance was determined to be 3,600 feet, and the dry condition minimum landing distance was determined to be 2,539 feet. The VREF for the accident conditions should have been 129 knots with a 10 knot factor for gust in wind, which is the VREF of 119 knots plus 10. The airplane has been retained for further examination.